now live in Seattle, Washington, and as the judge said, I work in the OR, and I have an amazing life. A life that I never imagined for myself. I thought I blew all my chances. I thought I wasted all my opportunity. And a little bit about where I came from is that I am a recovering alcoholic and drug addict. And it's hard for me to share that in a room where people may not understand addiction or the disease. And there are many in here who do. But it's my story, and that's how I ended up homeless. And I tell you, as a little girl, I never imagined myself to be homeless. I had high aspirations. I grew up with opportunity. I excelled in mathematics. I excelled in the sciences, and actually at the age of 16, I wanted to go to Stanford to become a doctor. Grandiose thinking, maybe, I don't know, but I certainly had opportunity when I was a kid. And I fell into that lie or belief, as a lot of young people do, is I just wanted to fit in. And I started picking up and I started using drugs and alcohol at a fairly young age. And it brought me down to a world that I didn't recognize and I never knew I would get used to. And what happened was I kept crossing that line, and over the years, like I previously mentioned, I no longer recognized myself. And I ended up homeless and on the streets in Seattle for a long time. I ended up getting on the methadone maintenance program. I did that up there and in Seattle. And I had my son Michael. And I quit drinking and I quit, I was trying to pick up the pieces. And I think I stayed sober for about I wasn't sober, I was on methadone, but I stayed that way for about 3 years, and then I picked up the alcohol again, and there I am back in the same places, and now I have a 2.5-year-old son. And so I moved down to Los Angeles. My mother lives down here, and I thought again that tried to get sober. And, I couldn't stay with my mother, and so I ended up calling the 211, and I got introduced to a transitional housing in Inglewood, and this place was pretty bad. I mean, I did get sober, and I spent my first 9 months of sobriety in this place, but there was 27 people living in a 3-bedroom house, and there were 5 people in my room alone, where my son and I, who was 2 at the time, shared a little twin bed, and then a woman and her 2 kids had a bunk bed. They had 2 families in each living room, or each room, and then they had about 3 or 4 families in the living room, and it was awful. It was disgusting, and there was no rules, no regulations, and I remember I was asked to speak at a panel with Midnight Mission, and I went out there to speak on a recovery panel. Just doing what I was asked to do, and relating. I was trying to relate with the guys there, and I started explaining my situation. And there was a person who was in that meeting, and I won't mention her name. You know who you are, and I freaking love you. But she came up to me and she asked me if I had heard of Homelight-a. It was then family housing, and I had not. And she's the one who really got the ball rolling. She ended up contacting Ricardo, and they got me in there. And I couldn't believe it. As soon as I went in, I told you about my previous living situation. They gave me an apartment, a large apartment, where my son and I can have time to bond and be together. And they supported my 12-step program. And they helped me, they gave me tools such as counseling and support groups. And the list goes on and on and on about how to not only fix the problem, but how to make it to where I achieve success and not repeat the past mistakes. They supported me through everything, and never once did anyone there look down upon me. Everyone there lifted me up. If there was issues, they would, respectfully talk to me about those issues, and there were certainly rules and regulations, but they were certainly my cheerleaders. And I never imagined that I would have this kind of life. It was actually Ricardo, and Ricardo's here, and I owe you a special thank you. How you treated my son and I, and how you just kept feeding dignity and life and purpose into us, and encouraged me to go back to school. And I went back to school to become a surgical technician. Since then, I moved out of the program. I moved up to Seattle, and I've been working at Swedish Hospital ever since I moved up there, so a little over 3 years now. And, honestly, it's the longest legal job I've ever had. I'm also continuing my education right now as well. And, you know, I don't want to go on too long. I certainly don't want to bore you guys. I wish there were words that I could say what this program has given me. My son is thriving. He was neurotic when he got sober because of the lifestyle that I was living. And he had some issues. And people loved him. And they put their arms around him. And he is a boy today who does not even remember the traumatization from Homelight-a. He just remembers happy memories. He's involved in Little League. He loves to read. He's excelling at math too, and he's doing wonderful. I'm so proud of my son. When I was at the mission, and I'll say this, I know you guys are like, get her off the stage. When I was at the mission, it was actually Ricardo again who was putting up these posters for a 5K, 10K. It was the first ever that they were putting on. And I wanted to support the mission. I had never been a runner before. I ran from the cops one time. But I had never been a runner, you know. And I thought, you know, I really want to try this. I really want to support this deal. And I started running on the treadmill, and I remember the first time I ran a mile, and I just couldn't believe it, and it was exhilarating. And so I did this 5K, and I loved it. I fell in love with it. I just was hooked. And that moment that I crossed that finish line, or somewhere around there, I decided I wanted to run a full marathon. I don't know, is that grandiose thinking again? I wanted to run a marathon, and I started training with someone who had actually went through this program and was working for the Midnight Mission at the time, and was also involved with the running team. And he started showing me how to train and giving me tips, and I did. I ran the LA Marathon, and after the LA Marathon, my son was there actually at mile 9 and mile 12 to run up and give me a hug, and it was just amazing. And I felt like that whole race I was carried by angels. I just couldn't believe that a person like me was out there running a marathon. And I loved it. I fell in love with it. There was no wall. Mile 23 sucked a little bit, but I pushed through it. And I finished, and the first thing I did was I called my dad. Because you see, my father has a daughter that he can be proud of today, you know. And anyway, I was hooked with the running, and I had dinner that night with the judge and the running team of the Midnight Mission, and the camaraderie that was there just moved me. Here we all are all just a bunch of convicts, you know, street people, you know, drug addicts, and we're running marathons, but it wasn't. I can't. Again, my words doesn't do it. It cannot do it any justice. We were all one. We were all there showing up for each other, and we were rooting for each other, and I just fell in love with that. I was talking with the judge earlier. It just was magical. It was magical. And so I ran, I got an opportunity to run Seattle Marathon back in my home, and again, I had kind of the same experience where my family was there to support me, and I was running past places where I used to live on the streets. And I remember, you know, running past the King County Jail, and I stopped and I waved, and I just had one of those moments where I just couldn't believe this was me. I ran with the judge and the running team over in Rome, Italy. I had an opportunity to do that, and then later on my own, I got to run Barcelona, Spain, and I ran Seattle again. So I ran 5 marathons in total of 2 years, and really, it's time for me to get off the stage, but all of this has been handed to me from Homelight-a. People believing in me, people seeing something in me, people calling me on my stuff, people helping me to be accountable, people pushing me to dream big. You know, I don't know how I can ever repay that. When they called me to come down here, I knew I had to be here with you guys. I just don't have the words for it. I'm just so grateful. My family is grateful. Thanks.